So as y'all have probably noticed, we live in an age where everybody is all about finding boundaries, asserting boundaries, etc. And it's not a bad thing. But once we start to conflate being assertive with being aggressive, or once you start conflating being aggressive with being assertive, then that's when we tend to run into some issues. And a lot of people that I've at least noticed so far, in my opinion, tend to conflate these two a lot. They tend to assume that their assertiveness is the only thing that's driving people away, when in actuality, it's their aggression that's standing right behind them whenever they're trying to be assertive. So in this video, I wanted to distinguish what the two things are. The difference between being assertive and solely assertive versus assertiveness with some aggression, and then even what it means to maybe just be a punk altogether. Let's get it. What's up, everyone? If you don't know me, my name is Denzel Mensah. I'm a certified life, personal development, and relationship coach. I'm an ENFJ, 9-wing-1, social sexual in the Enneagram and Myers-Briggs system. And like I said, today we are going to be talking about what it means to be assertive and what it means to be aggressive. Now, being assertive is not a problem. In fact, being assertive is a very good thing. I believe that to be assertive is really the way in which we are all supposed to try and get the things that we want. We're not really supposed to be the types of people that just roll over on our bellies and let people walk all over us. No matter how modest or no matter how humble or spiritually enlightened that you might be, and even if you're choosing your battles, you still have a level of assertiveness that you can bring. But assertiveness is not without respect. But once you lace some aggression into your assertiveness, that's when things start to become a little bit dicey. So before we even do that, I wanted to read off a few definitions of, assertiveness and aggression. And I wanted to kind of like say some of the distinctions that I might have and some of the reasons why I believe that these two things can be conflated with each other. So in my opinion, assertiveness involves expressing your thoughts, feelings, and needs in a direct and honest manner without attacking or belittling others. It is a communication style that promotes mutual respect and understanding. Now, aggression involves hostile or violent behavior, often intended to dominate, control, or harm others. It typically disregards the feelings and rights of others and can escalate conflicts. So in essence, assertiveness pretty much it begins and stops where you are actually feeling like, hey, this is an issue that I'm having right now. This is something that maybe somebody's doing to me, and I want to remind them or communicate or inform them of a certain boundary that I might have, something that they're doing that I don't like. I want to communicate this and just leave it at that. And as you're asserting it, then usually the best way of being assertive is to be respectful, is to avoid anything that might escalate the situation. It's to pretty much avoid anything that might be seen as intimidating or dominating or belittling or condescending. Once you start adding anything that's belittling, condescending, dominating, all of that, then that's when you start to lace your assertiveness. So it is still being assertive, but now you are peppering it with a lot of aggression. And that still, even though it's assertive, you've now created a different kind of beast. Because once you've peppered in that aggression, then now the aggression's scent is a lot stronger than whatever the assertiveness' scent is. And if you're not recognizing that people are actually running away from your aggression, and they might even be stopping whatever they're doing because of your aggression and not solely because of your assertiveness, that could actually cause more harm than good. It might escalate certain issues. It might get people to start talking badly about you because now they're viewing this as you just simply trying to intimidate or dominate them rather than actively and maturely communicating the things that you're having an issue with. And it's just a mature thing to be able to communicate your frustrations or whatever it might be without doing it in a way that's belittling or condescending or being in any way or shape or form like hostile to the other person. So I wanted to actually provide a few examples so that you guys could probably get an idea of just exactly what I mean. So like, let's say for example, your situation is you're working on a group project and a team member consistently submits their part of the work late. The assertive response could be, hey, I've noticed that the project submissions have been delayed. It's important for us to stick to the timeline we agreed upon. Can we discuss how we can ensure everyone meets their deadlines? Now, an aggressive response could be, you're always late with your work. Why can't you get it together? You're holding the whole team back. That is unacceptable. Somebody could probably tell this person like, yo, like they could probably, like that could start an argument. It could start a whole bunch of quarrels or whatever. It could create tension. And then the aggressive person might be like,
I was just being assertive. I was just letting them know.
And it's like, yes, but no. Like there was a way that you delivered it that still allowed more tension. It still allowed, like, yeah, you probably got the job done. Now the person probably is going to be submitting things more, but it's not, there was a better route that you could have taken it. Let's look at a second example. So a second situation would be like you're at a meeting and someone repeatedly interrupts you while you're speaking, something that I really hate when people do. An assertive response could be like, excuse me, I wasn't finished speaking. I'd appreciate it if you could let me finish my point before responding, if you don't mind. Now, an aggressive response could be, why can't you ever let me talk? You're always trying to dominate the conversation. Do you ever listen to anyone else? Once again, that type of response was still being assertive. So you can be assertive and aggressive at the same time. But the aggression, the sense of the aggression, is what's going to stand out and overpower your assertiveness. You might still get the results that you're looking for, but it's going to come with some collateral. Whereas if you learn how to stick to only being assertive and communicating the things that you like and that you don't like, but not letting it become something that's hostile or condescending or belittling, anything like that, then you can actually find that you're going to get a lot better results with way less collateral damage. To be totally honest, I just simply realized that aggressiveness does not work on me. Like, it's actually very irritating and frustrating, if anything, because I find it to be very unnecessary, and I find it to be like, I consider myself to be a good communicator. I consider myself to be pretty agreeable and compliant. And so because I find myself to be that way, I do not need anybody to try to dominate me or intimidate me or bring any type of this energy to me. So an example of this could be once upon a time when I was walking the streets of the Bronx and I did not have the time to pretty much get a Metro card, you know, one of those things that you use to swipe and get into the trains. I was rushing to church. And I remember actually I was trying to get some money on my Metro card, my bus pass, so I could be able to get on the train. But the train was coming and the next one was not going to be coming for like another 20 minutes or something like that. And I was going to be late if I still fidgeted with the machine that was not really putting the money on my card. So I did something that was illegal and I hopped over the thing and went and tried to like get on the train. But when I hopped on it then and I was walking over to the train, I immediately saw that someone with the Star Wars shirt had caught me and started walking my direction. I immediately already knew, like, okay, this guy, he might be a Star Wars fan, but right now he's not trying to come talk to me on some Luke Skywalker type stuff. That was a cop. He stopped me and he started, like, you know, pretty much telling me, like, you know, I hopped the thing, which I admit to him, like, yeah, no, I'm sorry, this situation, whatever. Like, he didn't have a gun out or anything like that necessarily. But the way that he was talking to me was very like, all right, get against the wall, do this, boom, boom, boom. And like, take out your wallet, what are you doing? Like, cause I started like reaching, he's like, what are you doing? Boom, boom. And I get it. You know, he's on high alert because, you know, it's the Bronx. There probably are like other people who might just try to shoot and run or whatever it might be. I finally had to tell the police officer straight up. I was like, officer, I just want to let you know that I am a very compliant, agreeable, and mild-mannered type of person. So I know that you're probably used to dealing with a lot of ruffians around these streets, people who might be aggressive with you and might not really listen to what you're saying. And so you feel the need to be aggressive with me, but I can assure you that's not the case. You can speak to me as a normal person and I will comply with whatever you're asking. So please, if you don't mind, I'm respectfully asking that you tone it down. And he seemed so bewildered by me gently asserting myself and asking him to stop bringing so much aggressive force into this thing. I understood that I did wrong in that situation. Did I have reasons behind it? Yeah. And I explained it to him afterwards, but it didn't have to be this whole intimidating type of situation. And with that, the whole rest of the encounter went well. Aggression does not work with me. Now, there is a caveat. I've noticed that there are a lot of people who are passionate, for example. They can't help but speak in a way that's all the rah-rah and, it's just a very expressive type of fashion, especially when they might be a little bit frustrated. I think that that's a different type of situation altogether. If you happen to be somebody like that, if I'm aware of that, then I will hold the space for it, because to me, I'll see that as less about me and more about you. Like, okay, this person is expressing themselves because they need to let out the steam. So they're just getting it out. And, I cannot relate to that because I, for whatever reason, am wired in a way that I do not conjure up such riled up emotions in that manner. And that doesn't make me better than the person at all. It just makes me different, because that same passion that they might have could be used in different situations to get good results in ways that maybe my more gentle approach might not always do. And so I allow the person, I give them that space, that freedom to be able to express. And as long as I'm able to distinguish, like, okay, they're expressing in this way because that's just naturally how they are. They're just a passionate person in that sense. I am totally all right with letting them express in that way and just continuing to listen and pretty much paying more attention to the content of what they're saying rather than the way that they're delivering it or the way that they're expressing it and taking that personally. However, if I feel like you are trying to intimidate me, to condescend me or dominate me in some way, shape, or form, it's not going to work. In fact, that is when I'm going to become even more stubborn, because I feel like, if I give into your aggression in some way, then you're going to feel like you can just continue doing that. And then it's like my stubbornness is almost its own form of countering that with your form of assertiveness. And so with that being said, I think that it's important to understand the people who do have emotions that they need to express and knowing how to give them that space to express it, but also understanding that if they're using those tactics to try to intimidate you in some way, maybe not in that very moment, maybe you should in that very moment. Use your own wisdom here to understand when and when not to communicate that. But at some point, let them know that you don't like when they try to do that. And just like I did with the police officer, like, hey, this right there, like that type of energy that you're bringing toward me like that, it's unnecessary. I respect you being assertive and you can continue to be assertive, and that is totally fine. But there's no need for you to speak in this kind of manner, to bring all of the head rolls, to bring certain type of vocabulary into it, even if it's not cussing, just anything that's making it seem like condescending or belittling or attacking, anything that might strike up defenses. It's not necessary. Communicate what it is that you are trying to assert, and I will happily oblige, and I will apologize, and I'll listen, and we can talk this over like civil adults. I think that that's a way of asserting yourself while still remaining firm and gentle and calm. Sometimes people think that people who, I guess, are not being aggressive are like punks, and that's far from the case. If anything, it takes more courage, in my opinion, to be able to stay firm and to be able to actually communicate and assert whatever it is, if you actually get to that point, of course, because a punk is when you're just completely letting anybody, whether they're asserting with themselves, whether they're being aggressive, you just let them roll all over you, and you're not doing anything about it. You're just totally, you're spineless. You just let anybody do anything to you. That's, in my opinion, what a punk might be. But there's a difference between just letting people do whatever to you and just continuing to let everything happen to you versus actually choosing your battles and knowing and timing when to communicate and assert the things that you like and don't like, especially if you're dealing with somebody who is prone to maybe not taking such criticism well. The moment that they get any type of constructive criticism, all of a sudden now they're becoming very hostile, or they're becoming very like frustrated or like defensive in some way. So you have to find a way to navigate and communicate whatever it is with lessening as much of the percentage of them becoming defensive as possible, which shouldn't be your responsibility, but in my opinion, it's just the reality of the situation. And I guess that's why sometimes we might see it as maybe being the bigger person. But again, that's not trying to insinuate that this person is better than the other person. If anything, what I'm really trying to communicate is that you are only in control of yourself. And so because you shouldn't try to control somebody and you're not in control of somebody else, then it's best to focus on how you can communicate whatever it is for you in the best way possible. And when you have that bigger person type of mentality, then that's you taking responsibility of yourself, your own actions, and how you present yourself in a way that's going to allow your communication to be able to guide things into a better fashion. I hope I'm making sense here. So, with all that being said, I guess a short recap would be to make sure that you understand the difference between being assertive versus being aggressive versus also just being a punk. And understand that assertiveness can have a lot of peppering of aggressiveness on it. And that peppering is going to be a little bit too spicy for a lot of people. So it'll keep people from eating the food, but probably not for the reasons that you actually want for them to. And so make sure that you're watching your expressions, because the aggressiveness could come off in a way that could actually repel people. And you have to be able to be self-aware to recognize that when people are being repelled, it is not because you're being assertive. Most of the time, if they're a healthy person, it's not just because you're being assertive. It's because you're allowing your assertiveness to be laced with aggression. And aggression is intended to intimidate, to dominate, to condescend, to belittle in some way, shape, or form, even if it's just through tone and energy. You can be assertive while still being gentle and still being firm. Asserting the things that you want and that you don't want, but there's a way to deliver it. And then keep from being a punk. Keep from just letting everything happen to you and then blaming the world for it. Assert yourself in some way. If you have any thoughts, questions, opinions, commentary, if you feel like you can identify yourself, if you have any tips at all, I would love to see them in the comments below. Let's make this a discussion. And also, if you would like any coaching from me to talk further about this, just find out which personality type that you are, any of the above, hit me up or book a session with me at denzelmensah.com. I would love to be able to talk with you about this. If none of those time slots work for you, be sure to email me at denzelmensah94@gmail.com. And if you like this video, please let me know by liking the video. It really helps a lot with my page. It's just a simple thumbs up kind of thing, and it helps people to be able to understand, like, okay, like this guy actually exists and he probably knows what he's talking about, or is giving some form of insight that might be helpful to me. So without further ado, thanks again for watching, and do not forget, you matter. Done.